Welcome to Parsha with Purpose, where each Parsha becomes a guide to living with meaning, serenity, and joy. At the beginning of Parsha's Pinchas, Hashem gives Pinchas an extraordinary reward. Behold, I give him a covenant of peace, a covenant of eternal priesthood. As we learned in last week's Parsha, Pinchas did not tolerate the travesty of a prince of a tribe brazenly committing a public act of immorality with a Midianite princess. He took a spear and killed them both. And that was done according to halacha. As a result of this act, he was rewarded with an eternal covenant of kahuna, of priesthood. And Rashi asks the fascinating question, wasn't Pinchas already a Kohen? After all, he was the grandson of Aaron, the son of Elazar. But the answer is no. When the kahuna was originally given, it was granted to Aaron, his sons, and all future descendants born afterwards. Pinchas, however, had already been born by then. He fell into the strange in-between category. So for years and years and years, day in and day out, every day for 40 years, Pinchas watched everyone around him serve as Kohanim. His father, his grandfather, his uncles, even younger cousins born after him. Can you imagine what that must have felt like? Every single day, seeing the role you long for, but not being able to step into it. Watching others belong where you do not. It would have been so easy for Pinchas to ask, what did I do wrong? Why was I overlooked? Why does everyone else seem to have a place except me? And perhaps you know that feeling. The job that didn't happen, the relationship that hasn't materialized, the opportunity someone else received, the door that stayed closed while everyone around you seems to move forward. Sometimes life feels deeply uneven. And the hardest part is not only the disappointment, it's the confusion. Because we cannot see the bigger picture while we're standing inside the moment. But then comes the incredible insight of the Zohar. The very thing that looked like exclusion was actually protection. Because had Pinchas already been a Kohen, the act he performed in stopping Zimri would have disqualified him from continuing to serve as one. The reason he was not made a Kohen earlier was because Hashem intended for him to become a Kohen forever. Not only him, but generations upon generations after him. Hundreds of Kohanim would eventually descend from him. And suddenly the entire story changes. What looked like being left out was actually being positioned. What looked like unfair was preparing him for something far greater than he could understand. And perhaps that is one of the deepest struggles of Emunah. Not believing that Hashem exists, but believing that there is meaning in the delays, the detours, and the unanswered questions. Because when we cannot see the plan, we often assume there is no plan. But Pinchas reminds us that there are moments in life where Hashem is protecting your future in ways you cannot yet comprehend. And sometimes the thing you are mourning today is the very thing making possible the life you are meant to step into tomorrow. That doesn't make the waiting easy. It doesn't remove pain or disappointment. But it does mean this. Your story is not finished simply because it currently does not make sense. There are chapters that only become clear later. Pinchas spent 40 years not understanding why he stood outside. And then, in one moment, he understood that he had never been forgotten at all. And maybe that's a message we need to hear. Just because we don't yet understand what Hashem is doing doesn't mean he's absent from our story. Delays are not rejection. Closed doors are not punishment. Sometimes Hashem is quietly arranging something larger, deeper, and more lasting than what you can currently see. Good Shabbos.